Okay, so
I'm going to keep asking.
okay. We gotta. Okay, so end stream, which
Sure.
means it knows. Okay, that we've started. Okay.
Okay, cool. Live.
Yes, live. All right.
All right, good.
Sorry, guys, about last time, and sorry, Stephen, and thank you for dealing with me. But we are live, and I'm gonna post this on the Madness, and yeah, no, it's not screen capturing, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I do. Yeah, leave page. It's okay that that's not done. I'll do that later. And yes, so we can just have we can just talk. Like, we can talk about what we missed last time.
Sure.
And I guess the state of. Make sure the audio. Yeah, the audio's fine.
All right, good. Yeah, and the microphone's not blocking either.
Yes, God bless. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Let's make it more. There we go. Like
Sure.
half. All right. Hey guys, Chris and Steven again. Coffee with New York City. This is literally the third time I've streamed, but the first time I streamed was like what? To say that I was going to stream later, and that don't miss me just because I missed my first mark. And then I streamed with Rose, and now Steven is here, and here we are, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to post this somewhere. Where is share? Share. There it goes. Okay, and we're going to share this, and let me tag Steven. Literally. And Steven had a day in Brooklyn, and it's cold.
Yeah. There you go.
That's the thing, really, that it's cold. So
Yeah, when it was a nice view along the water, but it was just too cold to stand outside. Like, by the time I got in, it's like the lady and I, our faces were red. It's just it's not fun.
yeah, I believe it.
I'd rather take that walk when it's actually nice. That's one thing I actually love about living over here. You and I have taken some walks along the west side here, and
when the weather is nice.
It's great when it's nice. I mean, the walk along the Hudson, birds are out. It's really nice. But this time of year, like, I'll do it occasionally if the weather's reasonable. But it's not fun. Because like I have to have my hat and gloves on, and I check things on my phone, take my gloves off, and it's just, I don't know, it's annoying. But at the same time, I want to be active to a degree because it's just like, it's easy to gain weight sitting inside. Oh, and the other thing too, when the weather's nice, is I also walk to a lot of the restaurants I eat at. So like Minetta Tavern's in the West Village, and I usually walk there. That's like about an hour walk or so. And like I say, when it's nice out, it's fun. But like some of these days, it's just, So.
I like New York in the snow, but it wasn't one of those pleasant snow days.
No.
It was like, it was what it was.
Yeah.
It was cold
Yeah.
and what?
Cold, windy. It's we got a little bit of snow, but it didn't really last. But
Yeah, it didn't last, so we didn't get any. But we didn't get any of the negatives of snow either. I'm not gonna have to shovel or anything.
yeah.
So that's great.
I don't know if you saw last year when I was at home, I had to shovel. My brother and I think it was like 2.5 feet of snow or something. We got this massive storm, and my dad would go up and take care of my grandmother when she was alive, and then so it was just me, my mom, and my brother. And my mom has back issues too, so we had to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And they have a snowblower now because my mom's Tom, like if the guys aren't here, they can't do it, and I can't do it myself. So it's like they got a snowblower. I'm like, you should, because you'll spend a little bit of money on gas, but you get a big storm, you just run it through the driveway once or twice, and you're good. So it's like it's a whole like money versus convenience and time thing. It's like, do you really want to like struggle with the shovel, your back, and spend a little bit of money, and it's you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I do think that.
I can do it. I can do it physically. My brother and I
can.
But my concern is my parents that
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I don't want my dad trying to shovel and hurting his back, and then it's a bigger issue.
Close. Yeah, dude. I was just thinking, like, knowing how to shovel is definitely a skill. Like, like even knowing how to pick things up, like it's definitely like a great skill to have. That's all.
Sure.
Like how to not move your back in such a way that you screw it up. I'm not saying, obviously, if you have a problem with your back, that's its own, not its own problem. It's going to make that harder.
Well, and as people get older, those things get harder to recover from.
Yeah, I know. Bones are a huge issue, especially in our society with how we Oh my God. Because sugar is acidic.
Yeah.
Especially when you absorb it, so your bones deteriorate, and that's a whole big problem over time. And it's where a lot of chronic pain comes from, like arthritis and all that. It's quite a pain in the ass. So yeah, no, I'm not ragging on your point. I just think it's great, especially young people. But like shoveling is not going to help with that problem. That's a problem, you know.
But that kicked my ass. My brother and I both, we were like beaten down, and and I'm like with so much snow.
Yeah.
I can find you the photo later and send it to you. But I was like, geez, that was. Well, the other thing my dad used to do actually was he got the tractor, and there was the plow attachment, and then he would just like push it along, and so.
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
It's different. It's different here though because we have the city do it. It's like you don't have to shovel your own unless you have your own little house or whatever.
Yeah, unless you're like in charge of that.
Yeah.
It is what it is. We all end up because my mom is the super, and we'll end up having to shovel and salt whatever it takes. You know, just like a road. You know, and there's families that live in the house, so you make sure there's no ice, and you just kind of like. Make sure people can cross the street, and that's about it. It is what it is.
Yeah, I also had to do it. Well, we also had to do the back porch and walkway because they'd come in that way, and we had a deck, and like those steps get steep, so it's like we'd have to salt everything, and that was a little bit of work too. But it's like you want to be able to get in the house safely. So
yeah, I love New York City in the snow. Honestly, like regardless, like work is work, you know.
I like snow around Christmas time, and I used to ski, so I like that. But like my thing is like after a little while, I'm like, okay, I want spring here because then I can actually walk outside, like I say, you know.
Yeah, it's been a stubborn winter.
But I feel like this is how winters go now. Like it's like a few snowstorms sort of scattered, and then it's like really cold, and then like occasional freak snow here and there, and then it's spring. It's screwed up they talk about climate change, whatever your thoughts on that. But I was telling someone yesterday, it's interesting because like morel mushrooms, which I like. Morel mushrooms, which I like, they're in season springtime, but apparently I learned that they're actually fed by the melting snow. Cool. So years where you don't get a good snowfall, it'll impact the yield because it's the snow. If you get a lot of snow, it carries the nutrients, feeds the spores, and that happens over and over. You get an abundant yield. But if the snow
fungus cultivation is interesting. Sorry, continue.
But the thing is, if you get weak snow, it's like you'll get either the mushrooms will be smaller, there'll be fewer or whatever. When I went to culinary school, people used to harvest them in the woods there. Nice. It's really cool. I'd like to learn more about that, but you got to get the spores. And I know there's some stuff about harvesting them where you have to cut it, like you can't pick it or else it wrecks the spore colony.
Hearing something. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, I think someone moved something or a door or something.
Entire universe.
The other thing I like, it's not fungus, but ramps. You ever have those? You get those in the springtime. It's a cross between leek and garlic. You go into the woods, they grow in these big clusters. You pull them up. It's really nice. Yeah.
So badass.
The chefs get into this dick swinging contest where they all buy as many ramps as they can because they're a commodity but only in season spring. So they buy them, and they pickle the heads, and then use the leaves for puree or sauteed. I gotta get some for my dad because he likes oniony stuff. He likes garlic, so I think that's up his alley.
Nice. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I don't even know what I was gonna say.
We were talking about snow. We were talking about.
I was just thinking. A lot of times, it'll be like every once in a while there's a snowy day.
Yeah.
That's like conspicuously warm.
Yeah.
And I love it. That's the perfect snow New York.
Well, there's something too about what is it? If it drops below a certain temperature, it can't snow. So it's like in order to get snow, it has to be cold but not too cold. And then if it gets colder,
it wasn't like that today. Today was just uncomfortable snow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it didn't even touch the ground. The children are unhappy.
It did barely, but it didn't last.
It did touch the ground, but it didn't last. Yeah, because there's.
But it was weird.
City heat bubble.
It was weird because even where I was, it was like. It was sunny and like slightly warm, and then it got really cloudy, and then it snowed, but then the snow melted, and then it just was like cold, and then sun was out again. Yeah, I don't know.
And last time we almost had we did have it. We had a whole conversation, me and Steven.
Sure.
And what happened was that there's like a little thing on YouTube that's like, you want to automatically start?
Oh,
and I hadn't clicked that yet. I didn't do the automatic start thing.
Right.
And I hadn't clicked start either. So it just didn't start. It was great. It wasn't great at all, actually, and so I ended up like having this kind of weepy moment with the camera, but not really. But later I looked at it and I was like, that looks real weepy compared to what it was meant to be. But I suppose I connected with weepy people. It's fucking, I almost called it Halloween. Valentine's Day.
Well, because I've thought about it. Some people have told me to do solo videos, but I don't know. I don't really like monologuing unless I'm reading a script, but then it becomes too like, what's the word? Like, I don't know. It's like I like natural conversations like this where it can kind of jump around versus if I'm just reading off a piece of paper. I don't know. I get bored.
I have a strong constitution for monologuing, but a lot of people really don't, and that's why it's good to have more than one person on anything.
Yeah. That's why I like the shows with Silas, and I will say he's a very good interviewer because some of the people I've actually introduced him to, and then he can ask our questions, and of course, like I can tie in my own experiences with them and all that, and I think that's just more interesting than, like I say, one person just reading off.
Of course, yeah. Because you don't always think of like what other people are gonna ask you, you know? Like, so sometimes you'll say something off the cuff, and nobody knows why you think that, and of course it happens to me all the time, but it happens to everybody, I assume. And so the more you talk about something, the more you're gonna look kind of weird. But we're New Yorkers.
But it's cool too because you find out certain things about certain people. Like, so for example, we interviewed my friend Jacqueline, who you know, and we found out that there was someone in Italy that Silas knew when he lived there who actually moved to Taiwan, and she knew the same person. So there's things like that are like really cool. Like you find out, maybe like, she's on the opposite side of the world, and like, we've spoken a handful of times, but I
know these people.
So like, things like that are always fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. And he's got kombucha.
Yep, it's this it's belly reset.
Nice. I actually I could go back into drinking kombucha, but as I said, coffee and kombucha, heartburn.
That's
what's gonna happen.
I'm cutting back drinking again because that's what messes with me, especially late at night. And Chris and I were discussing before all this. I was saying I think there's something about your body burns fat better when you drink less, because I've noticed that too. Like if I take a few days off of drinking, my appetite drops, and I actually feel myself like sweating. So I think that's actually fat. Like it's something with the liver and synthesizing carbs and whatever. And it's like if you don't have that, instead your body just breaks into fat stores.
I think there's like a critical mass of alcohol. Yeah. That's like once you pass it, like you're saying, it's like your body's like, okay, there's a bit extra. And I like to party too. And when you do it more, your tolerance goes up, and your body's physical tolerance doesn't.
Well, the comment I made before this.
I suppose.
Well, the comment I made before this too is if you drink a lot, it like throws off your appetite. Like you think you're hungrier than you are, and that's like where I tend to read what I had said.
That makes a lot of sense.
What I had said is
it absorb the food. It helps absorb the alcohol.
That too, yeah. But the thing is, working in restaurants, it was tough because you get out late, and then it's like you want to drink and socialize, but then you drink and you get hungry, then you eat junk food, especially late at night, and that just keeps adding up.
Yeah, bar food is often fried. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I like the 8th Street wine cellar. They had this mac and cheese I liked. It was made with mozzarella and kielbasa. Polish guy likes kielbasa.
You do it more or less, or at least you're on the right track. Because anyway, best thing I've seen, best way to drink is eating fancy, and you drink as an afterthought. So it's not that you're not socializing; it's that you're already there for
pairing.
That. Exactly, and there's a bar, and they're prepared for that, and luckily because I've vacationed a lot in Malta, that's a lot of the time how I'll do it, thank God, and so I don't have a just drink.
Yeah.
I also I was in college in the city, so I didn't really board and have a group of friends that I literally lived with, and then it really matters how much I drink because that's part of my status. But I'm also basically a pothead. So it's not like I'm above anything like that. So it's not like I can condescend on that level. It's just I do definitely acknowledge. But then there's the only reason that I don't have short-term memory that makes me feel extra stupid right now is some supplements at home that I actually notice make a noticeable difference in terms of me remembering something 2 hours ago, like where my keys are, literally. So I have my own life, you know, that it continues.
Well, for me, I was going to say with alcohol, I think, because I noticed that too, when you and I first met actually at Kirsten's birthday party, I was about 233, now I'm like low 220, so I'm still too heavy, but I mean, lost about 10 pounds, but I'm saying comparably.
It is good for a man, I believe.
But then I realized, like I said, a lot of it's alcohol for me because it's like I have dessert sometimes. I don't snack. I do the intermittent fasting.
How do you feel?
Like,
do you have chronic pain?
No.
That's great.
Because I take several supplements too. I mean, I have multivitamin, I have zinc, I have collagen supplement, I have green stuff like wheatgrass, spirulina, chlorella, fulvic acid. I have the sea moss. One of my friends swears by this, and like I feel like I've had more energy and motivation since I have it because there are a lot of minerals and stuff in that. And yeah, like I say, a few days of not drinking, I do feel like. I feel like my body burning fat, so that's nice. And I do enjoy my rich meals, like you said, the pairing. But it's like I figured I'd do that like 2-3 times a week, not every day, because it's like it's not worth it after a while.
My kind of point of the that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense, actually. Dude, in New York City.
Oh, the other thing I was
no disrespect, but it's like there are places where because the food is more fresh. Let's say, that you can get a better meal for cheaper than in New York City. In New York City, to get the top quality meal, often, not all the time, maybe, for top quality, pretty much all the time, I think, right? Like for the top.
Well, and like I told the
lady. But the top is high in New York, let's be honest as well.
Well, but like I said to someone earlier too, like you don't have to spend a fortune to get a decent meal here.
Yeah, not a decent meal. Yeah, exactly.
If you want the top, you're gonna spend. But I mean,
unless you're in the middle,
well, that's why you don't eat at Times Square, because Times Square it's all cheap chain restaurants that are overpriced anyway.
Absolutely.
And then there's a place like Huertas, I like the tapas place in the East Village, where it's kind of like a hidden gem, where it's like quality stuff under price, and you always feel like you got a good deal for what you pay.
I feel like exactly for a normal person visiting New York City is like a whole bunch of it's not just that, but there are like booby traps. There's economic booby traps. Because, obviously there's a real culture, and we know, and then there's he's saying there's tourist traps. And, that's all.
Yeah, if you go to, they say if you want authentic Asian food, go to Flushing, not Chinatown. I heard Little Italy in the Bronx is good. I haven't been there, but Little Italy, it's not, it was good decades ago, but now it's all just
there's one place that's still there that's from and it's like you're saying, it's basically like this tiny little.
Well, because it used to be off the boat Italians. Now it's mass produced, cheap stuff.
Mostly, it's mostly not there. It's been eaten by Chinatown, which is neither here nor there. People move. To be honest with you, it is what it is.
But it's not like decades ago where it was authentic. it was authentic Italian, guys who were from there cooking dishes that they made in their country.
Absolutely. That's the problem with globalization, how we have it now, right? That it's not actually an organic flow of immigrants who want to take part in America, quote unquote. Not that that's always going to be perfect anyway, but it's okay, these corporations seem intent on utilizing immigration and globalism for basically to underhandedly take advantage of what we call free trade, which they are specifically maintaining, basically taking advantage of regulations in different places and using them to take advantage of the people there. Things like the British having to fight over their waters about fishing, literally.
They said the EU wrecked the British fishing industry, basically.
Right, and that's more or less, it's got to be on purpose, someone made that decision. Yeah. And it's things like that, where it's when they're going to police you, they don't use your neighbors. They bring someone else in, and it's not just in policing. So it's not like we get like, oh, like, no, sometimes we do. A lot of the time we do. I feel like that's the best thing about America, that you'll get like a speckle from everywhere of people that want to take part. But with these corporations, it's more like, well, why is this person here? Well, they fit this like economic, and then like, even if they wouldn't be able to pass that test or whatever that test is, we'll let them in. Specifically maybe because of that, because we don't want to actually follow the regulations. We want to use those regulations to hinder the people here, already here, who actually want to take part. Like literally. And then there's like, there's every level of that. There's every level.
Well, I was going to say one thing on free trade. I highly recommend, if anyone gets a chance, read Murray Rothbard's essay about NAFTA, because he talks in there about how we haven't had free trade. Like, people complain about NAFTA and stuff, but he made the point, like, a true free trade would just be, you could write a one paragraph thing. All tariffs, import quotas, anti-dumping laws, blah, 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 are hereby null and void. That's all you could say. That would be free trade, and then anyone could buy wherever. But the thing is, with NAFTA and other things, it's really more like government-managed trade, where it's like, oh, we'll spend money to clean up this part of Mexico so this corporation can locate there, and then we're going to throw Mexican farmers off of land that they've had for generations. Then they come up here because they want work, understandable. But then it's like, why are we paying for these corporations to open here and get cheap labor, like things like that?
Well, we're not actually helping the people by making exploitation of them below our own standards. Yeah. Whether those standards are manipulated by these assholes or not. Yeah. Not that I don't think like I am a free trade person, and I think that literally it would be easier for young people to get a job if you just kind of like gave them easier jobs and paid them less, and you would have a more vibrant marketplace, which like literally, and that's what you want. That's what we had when I was growing up. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't like, oh, all these people are here to help me, but it didn't matter because they were doing great stuff that I was able to participate in cheaply.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, the whole point of those early jobs, it's like you're not learning all the skills to become a millionaire. You're showing, I can show up for work on time, I can follow directions, I can do this. And then you've proven yourself in a few places, then people are willing to pay you more money and take a chance on you.
Integrity as a team member, and the thing is that they act like their standards got higher because they have these super high standards. Yeah. Their standards didn't really... Like, okay, so I recently worked, I'm not going to say exactly the name because it's all nonsense.
No big deal.
But it's like I recently worked at a very large firm, let's say, and you see the managers, and I was managing for them basically, not just me, but you see them and you see like some of them, and I don't know what it sounds like, but some of them are literally illiterate, and really like it's because they've been there for like 30, 40 years. So new people get hired, not managerial. Managerial, the standards are like neither here nor there, oddly enough. But for younger people, it's like these super duper high standards, or that's what it's portrayed as. But I hired a lot of people, and I see it as like really if you know somebody or they need you. And then everyone else, they act like they're these really high standards, but it's really because they have like such a system where they basically don't do any favors for anyone at all unless you're like friends with an executive and they basically want to hire you to be another executive or you're in their family, and those are and you still have to pretend that they're super high standards, so they're totally like constantly full of shit, like constantly. And I'm not trying to degrade their, let's say,
business model?
No, I am trying to degrade their business model. I'm not trying to degrade the part of them that you described, the people there that do show up every day and do have integrity in terms of taking care of their team and maintaining that flow of work. I'm not trying to, say that they're not there doing their job like everyone else. Like I did. I worked with them, and, that's all, it is what it is. They're all dealing with the same kind of fucked up system, and I'm not trying to be too harsh on everyone working there. What I'm trying to do is talk about how because I worked in HR, and like I said, they were hiring people, and I saw how people were hired. And it seems like they are very aware that their system is completely out of its mind and insane, and basically taking advantage of these tax write-offs. Like if you hire someone who is a minority, and why do I put those in quotes? Because they won't necessarily hire you. They'll take you on as a temp, like contractor.
I see, yeah.
And it'll count as hiring, and they'll still make you pay a union due and all this for the maintenance workers, for 90% of the maintenance workers, maybe 99%.
Well, that's like when my dad got laid off from IBM and they hired him back as a contractor, but they paid him less money. But it's like you're doing the same kind of work, but it's definitely so. It's like they're like, okay, we'll give you your job back, and like technically they do, but it's at a lot less money, and then you can't. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so sad. Right. And you have to wait like 3 months to get the job back because they don't want to hire you. Permanent, and they have to like legally, essentially, if they keep you past that. And sometimes they'll keep you past that and not tell you, and then you have to hold on. Anyway, but what am I saying? And why did I do that under minorities? Because what's a minority? Well, a minority is someone who takes an optional questionnaire that we act like isn't optional because we get tax money. Like, first off, the guys act like they get tax money no matter what,
Yeah.
But literally, you just put in there what you want. It's not really like it's like an optional whatever questionnaire, and you just go by, and that way nobody is fraud. It's not fraud, but and they'll get they're not hiring anybody, and who knows what's what. But basically, so because they can't charge enough to make money on the regular. They can only make money off special services that have to be ordered special. So when COVID happened, they made oodles, at least the maintenance side, because we want you to disinfect this and that, and we took advantage of that like crazy, And but what am I saying? I'm just saying that the system's fucking out of its mind cold in New York City. The way the corporations have to work and the way it takes to work in the market in New York City is really fucking cutthroat and hard. And yeah, dude.
But what you were saying sort of ran in line for me with what I said about my culinary school, how there are teachers there that want students to learn and do well, but they have administration that's pressuring them into passing unqualified people, and they get resentful, but it's we can't do anything because there's pressure on us from administration, and if we fail too many people, we get reprimanded or lose our job. Yeah. But then you see how unrealistic that is, because in a real world scenario, if you're incompetent, they reprimand you and then fire you. I mean, that's changed a bit too, because there are rules about it.
That's from inside, right?
Yeah.
See, someone keeps opening the fire door for just a second. Anyway, it's okay.
But you think it's so unnatural because in the real world it's you screw up, they reprimand you and eventually fire you. Now there are rules about firing people. It's gotten a lot harder, but even so, it's you can't just screw up endlessly. Because my school, I made the point, you could fail classes and just keep paying them to take more classes, but it's you can't fail at your job and give your boss money and you keep your job.
There's a phenomena that I've noticed.
Sure.
Where so first I noticed growing up, being smart, quote unquote, wasn't necessarily cool.
Yeah.
And it's why? Well, because we think of smart people as, especially when you're young, people who are good in school.
Yeah.
And that lends itself to being oh, this guy follows orders, this person doesn't think for themselves. So really the whole great thing about being smart that makes it power, basically, and let's fucking face it, the type of people that are judging you that don't like smart, they value power.
Well, but I've been saying recently, I figure out in high school, most people who do well in academia are not smart, critical thinkers. They're just good at following orders and memorizing what authority tells them.
Right. That's why I'm sort of against compulsive education, because it makes being smart look bad.
Yeah.
It makes being smart seem like a not assertive attribute, and an attribute that you got because somebody kind of did something to you. And that's not true.
Well, I I always said, like, I thought about people I went to high school with, like, if you look at all their posts, what are they? It's sports stuff and, like, idiotic leftist talking points. So, and it's like, but the thing is, the thing is, these are honor students, so you would think, like, oh, they're the smart people, but it's like, if I get into it with them, like, if I debate economics with them, all they have are talking points. They don't have, like, a thought process and a philosophy and all that, and it doesn't mean I'm always, no, I'm serious, like,
it doesn't, I don't know how to respond.
And it doesn't mean I'm always right or I don't have things to learn as well, but I'm saying, like, you spend all this time in school and you just memorize what other people taught you. I mean, Ben Shapiro admitted, I took political science. He's like, I wrote like a communist and got an A. Because he knew, okay, if I tell the teacher all this, they want to hear it and they reward me. But it's like, are you really learning anything, or are you just telling the people in charge what they want to hear?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, like, okay, so it goes even farther than that with how you're describing. So it's like, okay, so now you're making them not just look like kind of weak, right? But now you got these extra guys, that are making those people look stupid, and are kind of only there because of like kind of this general idea, like, oh, those people they'll never do as well, you know, like, oh. And they have to, that's the only way they can, or not the only way, that's a sad thing. So they've basically been told, since that's the premise, that that's the only way they can survive within that environment, that the effort, you know, just doing it like everyone else has done it for millions, like for forever, you know, you have like a system of competence, you know, and like you said, in the real world, when you screw something up, unfortunately, because there are standards for production, you know, people need to eat. You get fired, you just get fired, you know, and don't get me wrong, it's, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's not the most pleasant part of life. But there's worse things than getting fired, and, you know, you want the system to run, and you work so that doesn't happen, to make it so your mistakes aren't so bad, because everyone makes mistakes. What am I trying to say?
Well, because I've wondered about that myself.
They're making people look bad, and they believe they profit off it. And now there's this extra sort of, like, it's not just, you know, oh, because those people are weak. It's like, oh shit, it's like a little cult army of actually stupid.
Well, because what I was going to say is, I used to be more on the side of there should be rules against firing people, but I sort of changed on that because I realized what happens is you get all these people you can't get rid of, and then it's like, unless they do something horrendous, you can't get rid of them, so you're stuck with incompetent people. Did I ever tell you about the...
There's already basically rules against firing people, where if you fire them for nothing, you have to pay them a certain... You know, it's like the whole... it is what it is.
Did I ever tell you about the cook from Harvard that I worked with at the retirement home? So... There was a guy, I'll never forget this guy for as long as I live. So he had degrees. He was maybe in his late 40s at the time. I guess maybe now he's probably, over a decade later, it's probably like 50s. But he had degrees from Harvard, Columbia, and the Culinary Institute of America. But he was like one of the worst cooks I ever met. Like, so the story behind him was that he went to Harvard. I guess his parents made him. It was a family tradition. They paid for it and everything. But it was his lifelong dream to become a chef. So he went to Harvard, went to Columbia, had a corporate job, and then... I guess got laid off, but he had made so much money that he was able to pay his way through culinary school, and he said he had more money than he knew what to do with, so he was just, you know, doing what he wanted to do, living out his dream. Now, the problem with him was he was an example of what he wanted to be doing, what he should have been doing weren't the same thing. And the thing was, most of the places he had worked in, he had been fired. Like, I never saw his resume, but when he worked at this retirement home with me, he had like 10 jobs in 2 years or something, because he had been fired from all these places, and like, I guess...
Being a chef.
Yeah, well, a cook. He was never even became a chef, but like, but that was the thing. And like, this one woman I worked with is like, you shouldn't hire this guy. He's had way too many jobs in too short of a time. But then once he was there, because like I say, there were all these rules about like firing, and I think he got a write up or two. But like, he eventually did get fired. But it took how many errors? But finally, whereas like, if you were in a privately run restaurant, he would have been gone, you know, a fraction of that time.
Yeah. Exactly. So there's that. There's people taking advantage of it on both sides.
Yeah.
Basically the system, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It comes down to you can't actually blame any one group of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, in anything, like, and a lot of people like are like, oh, you know, we make it into race and gender nowadays and nationality, but really it's about class. And class, I dare say, is more real to a person because you want to be socially mobile. I'm not.
Is it better to be LeBron James's son or to be like a poor white guy in Appalachia?
I do believe that how you divide the word, that's true. That's
That's an extreme example. That's an extreme example. Being at my point.
It's a fairly extreme example, and you could have picked worse, and you could have picked better.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Well, my point is, class, like, at least there's real tangible, like, oh, you get injured, you can't afford this procedure.
That's true.
Things like that. Whereas, like, okay, if you're black, you may face discrimination, but you also get affirmative action. Like, for example, Wilfred Riley, who is technically, he says he's black. I mean, he doesn't look it. I don't know, his DNA, but he actually got into Yale. But he was saying because he's a minority, technically, they boosted his score, and he got in. He said if he were white or Asian, he would have had to do a lot better. So there's things like that.
Class has this definition that can actually lead to kind of us understanding each other better on like a very human level, because class represents the effects of value. So when you say someone has class, that's actually something about your opinion, right? And so I'm not saying you're wrong at all, but like we're talking about like, so this guy went to Harvard and he spent his time and money, a very lucky guy, I think. Family of Harvard, graduated people and all that, and he spent his time and money a certain way, and we can still critique it.
But he had the luxury to go to school, and he always said, like, this is what I want to do. I have more money than I know what to do with. And the thing is, like, having worked for a cook, I mean, my first job was, like, literally over here. I mean, you make minimum wage, but, like, he was well enough off that, like, him, it was just, this is what I want to do, but I have enough money, it's a luxury to be able to do that.
I do think it's more valid. I just think that you can't blame any one group of people just for being associated with something, quote unquote, a class. That association, if we're to outlaw some associations, you have to be part of like actively, knowledgeably a part of like a death cult of some sort, knowingly like, oh, I'm at war with this group of people because they exist and I don't want them to die, and really, class is fine. Because we have to, we can't abandon human beings.
Well, Edward and I have this discussion a lot regarding the hedge funds and short selling and everything, and like he's a bit more sympathetic to them than I am, because I keep explaining like I don't have a problem with short selling, I don't have a problem with people betting against stocks. My problem is the manipulative stuff and the fact that whenever they get in trouble, they get a slap on the wrist, basically. Like I know they'll do naked shorting. Like for those who don't know, you're selling shares for put positions, you're betting against stock, you're selling shares that don't exist. So you're basically counterfeit.
That's classism too.
But they get like a $2,000 fine into a multi.
Sorry.
But what I was saying is like to a multi-billion-dollar company. It's like if you steal it'd be like if you could steal a Ferrari, you can keep it, but you have to pay $100 or something. Well, everyone would just steal the cars.
That's absurd.
That's what I'm saying.
With the system.
Whereas if we committed those crimes, they'd be at our door.
Look at us a certain way, and people believe like, oh, capitalism is the problem. And I do understand what they're saying.
I get the angle.
I get the angle. Obviously, they're doing it out of their self-interest, at least to a degree. But you look at capitalism. You look at economics. And you essentially see that, like, for instance, as people get more wealth on the whole, like the whole human race, they don't actually get poorer. And it's not necessarily like if you look at the Pareto principle or whatever, and Jordan Peterson talked about it, and I was actually quite surprised because he's like, well, that happens in nature too. So essentially, it seems, and literally, I guess this is a bit hypocritical because what's separate from nature? I don't know. But it seems as though they're artificially kind of putting people. It might not even.
Well, I've made the point. It's not my argument uniquely either, but like the countries with the biggest income divides are socialist countries because you have people at the top that have the cemented status, whereas if we had more of a free market, like with this. With investing, like you would have more brokerages. You could decide, do we want to do payment for order flow or not? Like places could offer, hey, we're not going to give payment for order flow. Like there was even a poll done, like payment for order flow. For those who don't know, it's market makers will pay brokerages like Robinhood, that was one that was controversial, and others for data on who's buying and selling what, and then they'll make decisions accordingly. Now, the advantage of this is that it benefits the market makers, but it also allows us to trade for free, because then these platforms make money off that. Whereas otherwise they would have to charge a fee or something. But then people have asked, well, like, would you be willing to pay a fee if it meant they didn't do that? That way they couldn't manipulate prices, and a lot of people agreed. So my point is, in more of a freer market, it'd be easier for alternative brokerages, and there'd be more competition in some of these problems. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and people
That's what I
don't
was getting
realize
at.
that. Like, oh, the poorer you are, the better a free market is. For
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking, so, and this is something that the moment I like recognized it,
Yeah.
I never thought of it again, but I think of it as just like, oh, that's a fact now. To the point where, like, I remember how, like, I only remember how many people believe this shit when I see someone say it on stage and a bunch of people start. Okay. So people have this idea that, like, because the numbers keep going up in the stock market, like, oh, there is endless growth. And you cannot have endless growth in science, you know, therefore capitalism is unsustainable.
Yeah.
And growth or whatever her name is, and everyone comes to class. And it's like, that's not at all what the hell is going on, because people keep advancing the ideas of past generations and this generation. So we learn how to use our resources more efficiently every day, which adds to value, adds to wealth. Even if they're not printing money, and adding this infinite number to, like, everything, where this table, if I actually valued it by, like, real standards right now, it's probably some, like, too much number for a table. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that.
Well, I think what you're getting at, there's more creative ways to use up stuff. Like, there used to be, they'd burn sulfur coal, which is bad for the environment, but the residue, you made sulfuric acid out of it, and that was used for other things. And then they figured out, oh, let's do anthracite coal because that's cleaner. Okay, there's things like that.
What I'm trying to say is really that they create this idea that wealth is literally physical stuff.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so one person can't infinitely grow without basically parasiting someone or something else, right?
Zero-sum game, yeah.
Right, with a zero-sum game, exactly. So what? And in reality, if, let's say, they released that technology for, like, the flying car, right?
Yeah.
Everyone gets a flying car. They would just have the best flying car.
Yeah.
Everyone would have flying cars. But basically, what am I saying? I'm saying.
Well, look at regular cars. Cars were originally horseless carriages for the rich, and then Henry Ford automated it, and then the rich will always have better cars. But you think about what a poor person gets now versus what rich people had decades ago.
So it's not even that. It's that they are afraid of us not feeling small and feeling like they're equals.
Yeah.
On some psychological level, and they're taking advantage of this idea that you have because you don't quite understand economics. No disrespect, it took me literally, I didn't understand economics until years after my economics classes.
Yeah.
Thinking about the things that I learned there and eventually being able to put it together, because I simply did not understand macroeconomics, especially. Oh my God.
Well, you learned Keynesian jargon and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I was educated by a Keynesian, but he didn't lie to me. He simply said what his opinions were, and he also explained it rationally and logically, but I wasn't able to understand it in my life, like, around me.
And if you read what Keynes did, there's a good book called Why Keynes Was Wrong, written by Hunter Lewis, and he walks through all of Keynes' ideas and refutes them, basically.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you read Keynes, like, he contradicted himself, he waffled on certain things, he said he discovered a new science, but then admits later, I took a lot from the mercantilists, which were centuries old, so it's like, it's just, he basically appealed to the people in power because he created all these rationales for government spending and everything, and of course people in power love that, so that's why.
Yeah, exactly. I'm basically...
Rothbard's not very useful to government employees,
Yeah, you said it. So they're taking advantage of people's natural inclination to steward the earth and take care of each other and all that, when in reality, really, because people do have that natural inclination in a free market, that's very valuable. And those people, there might not be someone who's able to monopolize, say, cooking, but wouldn't you prefer more people were cooking and we had more food? Like, oh, but we'll throw out so much food. So what would happen?
But that's government law too.
You know, like but that's what happens in places where everyone gets fed.
Yeah.
You know, you end up throwing out some food because you have an abundance. And we're part of nature, so when we throw things out, like, animals get it. You know, like, there's like a whole system, and in reality, they're just taking advantage of your self-criticism and making it into an abstract so that you don't have this basically drive to go outside and do something that you could actually criticize yourself for, because you might actually fail. If you feel like you're already, you know, like, disqualified for existing in this world where your carbon is pollution, like, legitimately, like, and that's like.
But we know by now that people who harp about the environment all have private jets, and you know.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So,
I don't have an issue with that. I mean, I like a private jet, but like someone made the point,
with hypocrisy.
Well, yeah, and it's like you and I could spray aerosol into the air all day, and it wouldn't give off the exhaust that one of those jets does on a trip across.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So it's like, but you're gonna rail about the environment, but it's like you have a yacht, you have a jet. Like, how much does this give off? You know?
Well, the problem is that the climate change is happening almost identically on the other planets.
Yeah.
Like. And it's because of the sun. It's because of the sun. Like, the North Pole is moving as well. So there's these cycles, these short cycles and long cycles. And basically, humans are lesser than fleas to nature. Like, less than fleas. Like, literally, we should be considered part of the fucking climate compared to the damn sun. You know, we are basically in the damn sun. If unless you're a flat earther, which... whatever.
I keep finding those people on Facebook. I don't know where they come from.
I hear you.
There's a lot of pretty women who are into it too. I don't know what the story behind that is.
Oh, are you talking? I'm not going to say her name.
No, but
that one's not a flat earther.
But no. But I mean, I've seen several. Like, I'll add up like, oh, she's pretty, and then like you talk and you'll see like the flat Earth logo. I'm just like, what the hell? But it seems like a recurring trend. That's why I wonder if it is a psyop. Like, they hire.
Oh, it's definitely a psyop.
Yeah, they hire
that thing where the CIA actually created the debate.
Yeah.
If I'm not
to get us to fight over stupid stuff. Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you believe that it's that. Like, don't get me wrong. NASA
that's what QAnon was. That's what, you know.
You want me to tell you the truth? This is going to be terrible.
Sure.
So there's a government agency called Q. If I'm not mistaken, it's the I'm not saying that's who QAnon was.
No.
I'm saying that there's a government agency called Q that's supposed to, like, regulate corruption. So what I'm saying
doesn't do anything.
Well, it basically doesn't do anything. I'm not saying, like, I don't know. I really don't know. Here's the thing. So whenever I look into the craziest stories, that's not what I actually find. Like, I didn't actually find any of those posts or anything say like, oh, JFK is coming back to life or something. It was something to do with his brother, actually.
No, it was JFK Jr. that he had faked his death and that he was going to come back and they were going to arrest all these people and
right,
the storm and all that. Yeah.
Right. Well.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would have loved that, but at the same time, it's like, what are the odds of
Well, I think eventually it's inevitable, which is why some people might let it happen. Like, if you look at the actual levers of power.
Yeah.
So, for instance, some of it is a bit too on the nose, where they brought Fauci back. Yeah. Like, Fauci is the guy who did the whole AIDS crisis. And when I was growing up, in the circles I was around, and I wasn't around right-wing circles, because in New York City, especially,
it's like 5 people.
It's rare, if ever, anything. I'm sure there are neighborhoods and there are places, but I don't necessarily know them, and I don't actually care.
And a lot of people keep quiet too. That's the other thing. Like, people will vote Republican but not say anything publicly.
What I'm saying is, he was very unpopular when I was growing up. He was known for having failed the gay community.
Yeah.
And people in general, and for spreading rumors about, and I had a friend who was born with HIV, for a long time, and I'm not saying that he wasn't that old, but he also told me, and he wasn't a right winger, To be honest with you, he wasn't at all, but he didn't take advantage of the system. He was a social entrepreneur, and that was how he was able to maintain sort of his group of friends 100%. What I'm trying to say is that while doing what he did, he was a very hard worker and he was a social entrepreneur. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that...
one thing that gets me a little bit is how the gays like
I never caught AIDS.
But one thing that...
Because he was my friend. I give him hugs. It was great. He was a great friend. He was the man. I miss him. Continue.
But one thing I was going to say is I think the gays are like pro Fauci now, but that's just because most of them are Democrats and like...
Are they?
But but I feel like because they're left leaning, because they feel because they feel like that's their side and whatever, they go along with all this stuff because it's like this is.
There's a lot of gays who are for who love his ass.
But they haven't looked into
It's just I try not to give Hollywood that right to represent anybody.
But you know what gets me too though. I mean, who hired?
There's a lot of gays in Hollywood, so it's gonna be like.
But also, who hired Fauci originally? It was Trump. So it's like it was Trump's hired, and so it's like
Trump is an interesting thing.
It's the same thing with the Federal Reserve. Like people are talking about like I've seen some lefties defend Jerome Powell and whatever, but I'm like he was a Trump appointee originally. Biden just reappointed him and may reappoint. So it's like you're complaining. It's like
and that's the issue with that lefty narrative where it makes me think this is a trap.
Yeah.
Because you could just take 3 years ago. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like literally. So I remember in mass people going, I'm not going to take this vaccine if Trump pushes it forward with his big whoopity woo.
Yeah. And then Biden gets in, and they're all like fanatic.
And now it's cultish.
Yeah.
It's cultish. Yeah. It's cultish to the point where it's on the TV like 24/7. Yeah. It's horrifying. And don't get me wrong,
profiles.
I don't watch that shit. I don't watch TV anymore.
Dating profiles people put in like Vax will only date him. Like it's just so cringe. Like whatever your thoughts are on it, fine. But I'm like it's become like a part of people's identity.
And people are just like, oh, Russia. And so MSNBC just acts like the Durham report doesn't exist. Of course, and they're in like their own kind of separate universe, like they admit they are, and they'll just be like, well, everyone else is in a separate universe. However, okay, so here's the thing. So Russia isn't actually encroaching on us at all, and
Russia has the GDP of Italy. They know they get wiped out. I mean, a few European countries could take them on. It's just a big country. That's why people think.
You remember who has a job in Ukraine?
Yeah.
And they're trying to build a pipeline through that spot.
Yeah.
And this guy's got a job in an oil company, but a Russian oil company is trying to build a pipeline through that spot. Yeah. And trying to compete with China, who we would never see anything about those concentration camps. And of course, our concentration camps, they no longer, the border that's no longer, it's still there, but now we don't talk about. So what I'm saying is,
Obama deported more people than anyone else, but that was a non-issue, and then Trump, it was an issue, and it's still going on. It's so inconsistent.
So I think they're burning the house down and pissing on the people willing to stay in the house for as long as they can, because that's their definition of wealth, and that's sort of my understanding of how the system is working, that trickle down system, because people think that trickle down is capitalism, and it's really not. Trickle down is basically the inevitable collapse of socialism, where these people, they don't produce a goddamn thing, so they just pay themselves for nothing by printing money, but then they have to do business with people. They have to pay people that fucking money, and because they're not producing a goddamn thing, they're gonna lose it. So it trickles down, but they're still fucking not making their money on any market that's free, because they're the only ones allowed to produce money. So they basically act as feudal lords, which is what it is.
That's why there was all this opposition to a central bank, and that Congress is supposed to create money, because the idea is if you vote for the people that are directly creating money, you can vote them out if they create too much or cause. Whereas instead it's, well, let's just appoint the Fed chairman, they do whatever they want, and then we don't know.
This might hurt some feelings on quote unquote both
sides. When do we care about that?
Well, I was going to say, monarchists aren't right wing. Monarchists are only right wing and fascists even are only right-wing compared to a globalist lefty, like someone who really believes that
Klaus Schwab.
there should be one regulator for the entire planet,
Yep.
and that's possible and a good idea. And that's the only person lefter than someone who believes in a monarch or a dictator of any sort, actually, even one democratically elected. So that's the reason why they act like American right-wingers are the craziest ones, even though they seem to be really nice, a lot of them, and you can't get them to cause a problem. Like, no matter, like, what did you do? You got some FBI agents. You tricked some protesters into going where they shouldn't have. You had Nancy Pelosi in charge of the D.C. police. And you had the president ask for extra police, and he specifically didn't put extra police. And then when people started debating which votes were accurate, you had people come in and do a stupid fucking dance. And now you're acting like they're fucking... Now this, like the spawn of Satan came upon you when you fucking had 2 years or some shit of like violent protests in the street that you gotta act like they're
30 plus people got killed.
You know, they're the religion of peace too, right? So it's like, okay, visibly fucking stupid. Like it's like they know the house is burning down, and they're like, but you know what would cost a lot of money? Ferrying everyone out of this house or getting them, that sounds like, and it sounds like we'd have to educate a lot of people, and they would be a higher quote unquote class of people by the end of it, because you'd have to teach them how to climb out of this stupidity. How about instead they get out by hook or crook, tooth and nail, whatever it is, and then while that's happening, we take advantage of that process, and we maybe we can even create a class that's so hooked on dependence on us that they will actively reject freedom when it's easier, right? And that's basically the goal, and that's why when Kanye West said like, oh, you have to basically, the slaves had to agree to it on some level, they were like, no! That wasn't about black people, that was about everyone, that was about you. That was about you going, oh, well, just wearing a mask is courtesy, and it's like, legitimately, no it's not. Courtesy is smiling at someone. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been millions of goddamn years. In Asian countries, if you're sick, they will wear a mask.
Yeah.
Because it's like sneezing.
Yeah.
Instead of doing this, they have a mask on.
Yeah.
And I actually respect that too.
Like we said, if you want to wear a mask all the time, I won't stop you. But forcing everyone to do it all the time, it's over the top.
It's religious.
Yeah.
They know. So first off, 90% of those masks are filled with carcinogens.
Yeah.
Then it's the fact that your breath will. So let's say. So first off, you have your own immune system, right? And that's what's stopping. Hopefully, if you have a working immune system in that way, stopping your mouth from getting infected constantly, because your mouth is an open, moist. Hole.
Yeah.
Okay.
See if I was going to say
Yeah. Moist. So I'm just saying that literally you have when you have this mask, you create a biome without your immune system with all of the stuff that stuff grows on. So basically, for like unless you wear that thing every day for like a month, it's going to take you a while to actually get used to the stuff that builds up on that thing over a day. And if you don't have a working immune system, you'll get fucking sick. Like and that's a sad thing. So it's got carcinogens. There's that. There is this odd probiotic effect that can take place after like a month of doing it every day and inhaling your own weird like shit breath. But it's fucking sad. The same people that are going to act like this is like holy scripture are the people that's going to have too many antibiotics and are going to have killed off their whole probiotic system anyway. So fucking they're going to end up with this like fucking terrible mold going on inside their throats and shit. And I feel fucking terrible. They might get fucking tuberculosis I swear to God.
Yeah.
Like, so it's for me, this is
Approaching
actually
9
super
o'clock,
fucked
yeah.
up. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I just didn't want you to.
Have a final word since you mentioned.
No, it was good. I mean, definitely a lot more we could say on this.
Yeah.
Glad we were able to catch up. I mean, probably could keep going too, but it's like, don't want to lose people with a forever long show either.
I wouldn't mind, but you know me.
Yeah, same. Me too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's 9 p.m. Thank you guys for
Thank
coming. Like and subscribe.
Yeah. See you soon. Cool.
Yeah. End stream.
Yeah, because that's the issue with me and Silas. Like we